afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Be Good to Yourself. My name is Chef Billy Breedlove, aka Florida Boy with the Sauce. All right, so we got something very interesting going on today. We're going to be showing how to properly sharpen your knives. I'm going to be showing you how to store your sharpening stone, what kind of sharpening stone we have, different kind of knives, things like that, and also cleaning as well. Okay, so before we get started, I want to give a special shout out to Miami-Dade County Police Department. I want to give a special shout out to the Whiskey Rebellion. Okay, and we're gonna have just one sip of this new rye I tried, Pikesville. It's 110 proof straight rye. And I want to give a special shout out to Moto's Liquor here in Miami. Get in touch with those guys. They got all the good stuff and they can help you find that hard to find stuff. Talk to Sasha. They're located at 3198 Northwest 7th Street in Miami. Phone number is 305-642-0800. All right. Now, since we're going to be sharpening knives, I don't recommend that you do a whole lot of drinking because you really need to be on your game. But since we poured a little bit, ladies and gentlemen, as always, be good to yourself. All right, so now we're going to get this out of our way here. All right, so sharpening the knives is something that's very important for several reasons. One, if you're butchering some meat or some chicken, the sharper your knife is, the cleaner your cuts, the better product you're going to end up with. You don't want to end up with a bunch of saw and hack marks, especially if you're doing like a brisket or if you're trimming a rack of ribs, something like that. You want to be very, very careful as to how you cut. Okay, so now, again, making sure when you're sharpening your knives, you want to have everything laid out the way that you need it so you can work within your area. All right, so first, before we get started, we have your standard cleaver. This is a Japanese type cleaver. It's all one piece, all one steel. Be very careful with this. This is heavy. So this is not a piece of equipment you want to be playing around with. Another piece of safety that I really can't stress enough is if you have your knife on the counter and it falls, do me a favor, let it fall. Do not try and catch it because you're going to end up on the business end of this knife and you're not going to have a good day. You can always replace a knife if you break the tip or something like that. And 99% of the times, the knife is perfectly fine. So don't try to catch a knife. So you got a cleaver, okay? I do a lot of brisket, so I have a slicer, okay? I also have a scimitar, which is also good for butchering. You could use this in several different ways, okay? Nice curve to it, okay? We have a curved boning knife, which is also great for making good cuts on chicken, shrimp, smaller items when you're deveining shrimp. We have a paring knife. We have a sushi knife here. And we have a standard chef knife, okay? I am very, very particular about my tools. Listen, I'll probably give you money and I may even let you drive my Jeep, but I will not let you use my knives. All right, so now we're gonna be using a sharpening stone, which we have here, okay? Now, my sharpening stone is a water stone, so you wanna let this stone sit completely submerged in water for at least 10-15 minutes. I've taken the liberty and I've gone ahead and done that. Also, what we're gonna be doing is I'm gonna show you guys how to use a sharpening steel. A sharpening steel can put a little bit of edge on a knife, but a sharpening steel is usually used for keeping the blade straight, which is also something that's very important. A lot of people are under the impression that they want to look fancy doing all this stuff with the knife and with the sharpening steel. It's not always for sharpening, and when you use a sharpening steel, you need to make sure and clean your knife because there's going to be small pieces of metal which you don't want to transfer onto the knife. especially since you're going to be using it on meat which somebody's going to be eating. So for me, when I'm cleaning my knives, I like to use paper towels. And the reason that is, the paper towels are clean. I'm not going to use the word sanitize, but I would not suggest you use a sponge that you've previously used to wash dishes with, because 9 times out of 10 they could have some kind of bacteria on it, which you don't want to transfer to your knife and then use on food, because that is a way to cause foodborne illnesses. Alrighty, so we got some paper towels handy. And also, when you store your stone, after you used it, let it completely dry out. I like to use a clean Ziploc bag to store my stone. Try to get as much air out of this as possible. Wrap it, and then you should be good to go for the next time. So for my sharpening stone, I have sitting here on top of my board to give me a little bit more height, so I'm not like leaned over. Okay, I have a rubber mat inside the actual cradle for the stone, and also in the back there's a little rubber mat that also helps keep it from moving around on you too much. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our stone, and one of the keys that you know that your sharpening stone is ready, when you put it in initially, you're going to see a bunch of air bubbles come out. And once you see that there's no air bubbles, then you know your stone has enough water in it to use it properly. Okay, and just my own personal use, I would rather you use some bottled water, distilled water, things like that, just to make sure you can get all those air bubbles out of there and your stone is not sitting in anything contaminated. Okay, also another good tip too, you can use some either cleaning vinegar or distilled vinegar once you're done to really kind of wipe your knives down. All right, so we have a stone that's a 1000 grit and a 6000 grit. Okay, so what we're going to basically do is we're going to start with the 6000 first, or the 1000 first, I'm sorry. You're going to put that back down in your cradle. Okay, get it firmly in there. There you go, nice and sturdy. All right, now you have to determine where your cutting edge is on your knife. So in like a paring knife, you may be more towards using the tip. So that would be from the tip to maybe about halfway down is going to be your cutting surface that you actually use. In a bigger knife, you may be using a surface kind of right in the middle. All right, and of course with your slicer, it's going to be basically the same, because you're going to be using this to cut brisket or a larger piece of meat. So really from about 2.5 inches in to about 2.5 inches from the handle itself, that's where you're also going to be your cutting surfaces. All right, so we're going to get our water out of the way here. All right, now what we're going to do, and if you're going to be sharpening several knives, do it where you sharpen all of your knives on one side of the stone, and then if you're going to graduate to the other side, do it all on one side first. Do all your knives one time on this side, flip the stone over, and then do everything on that side. All right, so since I use my slicer quite a bit, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start with my slicer. So since this slicer is long, you can kind of work this one or two ways. One, you can start at the upper corner of your stone. You can start, like I say here, up your upper corner and work towards the other corner. Now, because this is such a large knife, you can hold your knife kind of at an angle. Excuse me. At an angle. And really, what you want to do is that cutting angle and the surface in which you're going to use your knife. Okay, you're just going to kind of go back and forth. Okay, and you can do the whole knife if you want. There's no issue with that. But just know that you definitely have a cutting surface area that you use more than others. Okay. Now you're going to flip your knife over, and you're going to repeat the process going the other way, like so. Okay. All right, and that's basically what you're looking for. And I know it may be a little hard to see, but there's going to be a little buildup that you see on the knife itself, and that's fine. Okay. I'm going to do this just a couple of times, and you want to kind of use even pressure going all the way, and you want to make sure and keep your hands as dry as possible. Now, if you feel like you're kind of new to this and you don't want this thing slipping out of your hand, you can get yourself a guard, okay, which just simply slides onto the back of the knife, like so, okay, and you can use that to kind of grip, okay. All right, and then you're gonna go the other way. All right, just like so. Now, the other technique, you can kind of, and then on the other side. But because this is such a long blade, it makes it a little odd. So that's why on the slicers, I just use the kind of back and forth, like so. Okay. And also another reason you want a sharp knife, and it's gonna happen to the best of us, if you ever cut yourself, you wanna cut yourself with a sharp knife. This way the cut is clean, it heals easier, and it's not ripping the skin. It's just kind of like a scalpel would just kind of go through the skin. And what you can do is you can kind of feel there's an edge on here, okay? All right, got that nice little edge there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna move on to another knife. We're gonna move on to our curved boning knife. You can use the same technique as well. And when you get down to the tip, you can kind of go right against the tip. And you want to keep a slight angle on it as you go through it. Okay. And if you're not going to use the guard, what you want to make sure and do is keep your fingers on top of the blade, like so. Okay. And I would recommend, if you're going to be doing a lot of cutting, after each heavy use, I would definitely say you should go back and sharpen up your products, keep your knives nice and sharp. It's a part of being professional, if you ask me. Okay? And if you do that, your knives don't really need a whole lot of sharpening. You know, you can just really kind of be gentle with it. Okay, other side. And again, you can do the corner to corner. Okay. And that's really it. Got a nice edge on it already. Okay, so now what we want to do is we're going to take our sharpening stone and we're going to flip it over. And this is to kind of do some fine work, if you will. Again, make sure it's firmly into place this way it doesn't move on you. Okay. And even when you clean the stone itself, what you want to make sure and do is use some fresh water, either the bottle, maybe even from your refrigerator where there's a filter involved, something along those lines, okay? Really nice edge on those. And a good sharpening stone will last you years. When I tell you years, it will last you years, okay? And there's oil stones you can use as well. You know, make sure you have a good honing oil when you do that. And again, thoroughly clean your knives afterwards. Okay. Nice. Okay. So you're using the cleaver. All right, and that's really basically all that you need to do. If you're doing this right, you have everything all laid out. It really shouldn't take you no more than 3 to 5 minutes to get your knife to where you need it to be. And again, proper maintenance and upkeep, all that stuff is gonna go a long way. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our water. We're gonna take a paper towel. We're just gonna kind of submerge it in there. Okay, take our paper towel. Now this is a critical part because you don't wanna cut yourself. You want to take the paper towel, kind of ball it up, and you just want to run it along the blade like so. Okay. And I don't know if you folks can see that, but you could see the residue from the sharpening itself. Okay. And take your time doing this process. There's no reason to rush. This is before you get into really carving or getting into anything big. Alrighty? And that's basically it. I'm gonna show you guys how to use the sharpening steel, and then we'll go from there, and I'll show you how to get the stone all cleaned up. Alrighty? So you're gonna take your sharpening steel, and really, this is just 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, done. You don't need no magic show where you're doing this. A proper way to know that you're at the right spot, if you take the sharpening steel, your heart's here in the middle, cross your heart, put the knife here, from tip to base. Tip to base. And also remember, if you're gonna have a sharpening steel, get one with a guide on it. This way, in case you're going down and it slips, you hit the guard, not your hands, okay? And again, like I said, I would recommend you can get some vinegar, cleaning vinegar, something like that, to really clean up everything afterwards. So we're gonna take another little paper towel here, okay? And what I like to do is, I like to let my knives air dry, okay? Don't put them away, let them dry overnight, or you know, something, but don't just put them back in your roll or in the drawer or however you keep your knives. Don't do that, because this is a great way to end up with rust on your knife. Okay, now as far as the stone goes, you're gonna take your stone, and you can see there's some residue on there. All right, so we're gonna just take it, okay, back in the water, get you another paper towel. Okay, and you can really just go in, a little bit of elbow grease, and you can get that off. Okay, and that's basically it. Alrighty, and as far as your stone goes, before you put it back in the Ziploc bag, take your stone, let it sit out overnight, let all that water dissipate, and that's basically it. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much. And as always, Be good to yourself. See you guys next time.